Hi guys, welcome back to today's video. I'm so glad that you can join me today. I hope you like the new background. Hopefully it will help with editing. I'm so glad for you to be here today. I'm going to start my true crime series today. Super excited for this. Did a lot of research on it. Thank you to everyone who's liked and commented on my last few videos. It actually means the world to me. So thank you. Mwah, mwah. Thank you so much. If this is your first time here, hi, my name's Aodain. Lovely to meet you. What I'm going to try to do on this channel is do a bit of true crime and a bit of beauty. Not together. The beauty side of it I'm going to try figure out and kind of learn how to get better at makeup and just follow a few tutorials, and I hope you'll join me for that. And then the true crime, I'm just going to do cases which I find interesting. Okay, if you're new here and you haven't seen my last video, I'll link it up here. It's just to get ready with me, very basic, just trying to get better at YouTube, trying to figure out how to edit stuff and how to change other things. So excited. A few videos coming up and I'm really excited about. I have a little giveaway in one of them and I really hope that you'll join me. Just like, subscribe and comment. It should be up in the next week or so, but it's just a little giveaway just to say thank you for being you and being here. As I mentioned, I'm going to start my true crime series today, so grab alcohol, grab tea, coffee, snacks, whatever you got. Sit down and relax, because I want to tell you about a case that has only been solved recently after 46 years of being unsolved. It's the case of Carla Walker from Fort Worth in Texas. So sit down, relax and join me, because this story is whew, and we're going to jump right into the video. So Carla Jan Walker was born on the 31st of January in 1957, Tarrant County in Fort Worth in Texas. Her parents were Leighton and Doris, and she had 3 brothers and 3 sisters. Brothers were Charles, James and Steve, while her sisters were Cynthia, Diane and Charlene. At the time of her death, Carla was just 17. She was a junior in Western Hill High School, where she was also a cheerleader, and her boyfriend at the time was Rodney McCoy. He was slightly older, he was a senior, and he was a quarterback for the local school football team. Carla herself was known as a bubbly, friendly person, and her sister was quoted as calling her a bit of a spitfire. So, to me, she probably had a bit of gumption to her. She was said to have had a great relationship with Rodney. Again, her sister said they seemed to have a good relationship. They very rarely, if even ever, fought. So if we take it back to the night of her abduction and murder, it was Valentine's Day 1974. Rodney and Carla had been at a Valentine's Day dance, or hanging out with friends, enjoying their life, having a good time, where they stopped off at Ridgely, I think it's Ridgely bowling alley, to use the restrooms. They came back out to the car. Rodney was said doing what teenagers do, chatting, making out, as the passenger seat door was yanked open and Carla was pulled out of the car. In an interview that Rodney did years later with Paul Holes, we all know who Paul Holes is, and if not, we should. Very instrumental in the capturing of the Golden State Killer. Has a brilliant podcast on the Exactly Right network called The Murder Squad with Billy Jensen, where they actually re-examined cold cases and put the information out there for internet sleuths, citizen detectives, just to help solve cold cases. So brilliant podcast. He said that the passenger seat door was open. Carla started to fall out. Well, he thought she was starting to fall out, so he went to grab her. But a man appeared and hit him across the head, told him that he was going to kill him. Now, he did say that he was pulling the trigger on the gun, nothing was happening. He didn't really know what was going on, but he does remember Carla herself shouting at the abductor to quit hitting him. Therefore, he said he must have been hit. He noticed blood coming out of his head, into his eyes, into his face, into his mouth. And before everything went blank, he does remember Carla saying, "Go get my dad." When he came to, was in the car still, and he drove to Carla's parents' house, where somebody else had phoned the police. So the police were called, they went to the scene, and there was signs of a struggle, as Carla's purse was found on the ground, and also the magazine .22 Ruger pistol. Put a pin in that and just remember that. Still no sign of Carla, and there wouldn't be any sign of Carla till 3 days later. Her body was found in a culvert quite close to the Bentbrook Lake. Now, for people who don't know what a culvert is, I didn't. I will try put a picture up here of something similar. But it's basically one of those drainage pipes that can go under a road. So her body was found there. It was found raped, tortured, injected with morphine, and then strangled. From her body, the DNA was collected from her bra and her underwear. Although the police had suspects and questioned a few people as suspects, nothing ever came from it. There was no final outcome to this. In the September press conference, where the announcement was made that a killer had been arrested and charged, there was a detective from the cold case unit, Jeff Bennett, who was very instrumental in getting the case reopened, said, and quote, "We had taken the case as far as we could with current technology and evidence we had at the time. Although they had suspects, they couldn't pursue it any further because the technology wasn't there. But the evidence was collected and kept. So, yay for that." It would be 46 years later that the DNA that was gathered was used to make a DNA profile that could identify and capture the monster that had abducted and killed her. Another thing that was brought up, and I can't say that I saw any of this because I didn't know this case before it, but Paul Holes pointed out after the interview with Rodney McCoy that he was under suspicion his whole adult life, and the main feeling he could have felt was relief. Quote, "The DNA genealogical technology catches the responsible and exonerates the innocent." It did both in this case. We move on to the man who was arrested 46 years later. I use the term man loosely. Glenn Samuel McCurley, born around 1943. I say in and around that because he says he's 77 now, but I cannot find his actual date of birth. So by crude calculation, I'm saying it was in around 1943. He was born in Fort Worth and he remained there for the 77 years. Back in 1947, McCurley was actually a person of interest, and he was under suspicion due to the police at the time obtaining records of purchase of .22 Rugers, in which McCurley was one. He lived about a mile away from the actual abduction site, and they had also obtained his work records, and he was off the day of the murder and the day after. Also, his wife was out of town, so he had a free run of the place. He had also purchased the .22 Ruger. Remember that empty magazine found in the parking lot? McCurley was one of these people, but he had claimed that his was stolen on a fishing trip. He had been to prison in 1961, and he considered himself an ex-con and was surprised that anyone would steal the gun from him. He was questioned and denied any link to the abduction and murder of Carla, and as Detective Bennett's comment, they did what they could at the time. They couldn't take it any further, so he always was on the files and remained as a person of suspicion. This case remained cold for 45 years until in April last year, the Fort Worth Police Department actually released a letter that had been posted back in 1974 stating that after a few names were blocked out, it killed Carla in Brentbrook. The end of it said, "P.S. It is hard to say, but it is true." There was also notes that it was signed 10100. This was never really confirmed, but it was thought at the time that this was actually a police code for a dead body. This pushed this case back into the limelight. The lead detectives were Detective Leo Wagner and also, as mentioned, Detective Jeff Bennett. They released this letter and hoping someone would come forward. It was posted at the time in 1974, but unfortunately the detective that it was posted to passed away shortly after, so it was never made public or never showed to the family. They released this letter and hoping someone would come forward, pushed this case into the limelight. And then DNA evidence, and recently they've seen such success as the Golden State Killer and cases like that. The police department and the two detectives obtained the DNA evidence and outsourced it from a private company called Othram. Therefore, a full DNA profile was then generated. The profile came back as a possibility of 3 McCurley siblings. Glenn was obviously high up on the list, as he was always in the file as a suspect. A plan was put in place, and back in June 2020, just this year, trash was collected from their home and sent off for DNA analysis. And on the 4th of September, it came back a match for Glenn Samuel McCurley. On the 10th of September, the detectives went to his house, to which he still claimed he didn't know Carla, he didn't do anything, he's not involved, and voluntarily gave a DNA swab. Like, he had to have thought, 46 years, I'm golden, I don't need to be fearful of this anymore. So he gave the DNA swab, and obviously it came back and he was arrested. He gave his DNA swab, and after 46 years, the animal that had abducted, tortured, raped, injected her with morphine and strangled Carla Walker was caught and brought to justice. Now, I did see in some articles and some that he had given an interview saying it was all a misunderstanding, that the night in question he actually thought Carla was being beaten, so he went to rescue her, and he brought her out of the car and put her in his car, and she thanked him by going to give him a hug, which he misinterpreted and tried to kiss her. He said it was all a misunderstanding and I didn't mean to do it. 3 days the poor woman was kept. 3 days later, get to fuck, to be honest, get to fuck. McCurley is now awaiting trial. He has been arrested and charged with capital murder. For Carla's family, unfortunately, some have passed away. This was over a 46-year period. It's amazing that the killer himself was still alive after 46 years. He was 77 when he was arrested. He didn't move from his house. He lived there for the last 30 years with his wife and 2 children who knew nothing of this. So they will not be spoken about at all. Too much respect. After 46 years, Carla's family finally had justice. Her brother Jim, when he was told, the first thing he said was, Jesus Christ, finally. They have never lost hope. They've never given up. They wouldn't let the case die. They kept Carla's memory alive, and they kept fighting for her for 46 years, because they said they knew it was a matter of time. Carla's brother Jim has been the most vocal, and he said he was 12 years old at the time of her murder. Murder? I can't say murder properly. And although they can finally put a name and a face to the monster that took Carla away from them, the strength and forgiveness that they have far precedes anything. Jim was quoted as saying that we are praying for you. We don't hate you. I hope the city of Fort Worth has prayers for the family. It's not their fault. We'll see justice served. We'll see justice served with prayers and forgiveness. This case is unreal and it's still unfolding. So hopefully I will have more updates as it goes on. And that, my friends, is the story of Carla Jan Walker and the abduction and murder, and how the case was resolved 46 years later. There's such advancements in technology at the moment. Hopefully all these cold cases are going to be solved, and they can be solved. The people who have committed these crimes, I hope they live in fear. Okay guys, that's the end of the video. I want to thank you so much for joining me on this journey, and I hope my first crime is good. I found it such an interesting case to do first, and I'm so happy with it. Make sure you like and subscribe down below. Let me know, have you ever heard of the case, and what were your thoughts on it, and is there any cases you'd like covered, anything like that? Just let me know down in the comments. As I say, I have a few videos coming up. A few are unboxing and stuff like that, so I wanted to, as I said, there's going to be a little giveaway probably in the next week or so. So make sure you like and subscribe and leave me a comment. Thank you so much for everything. I hope you like the background, and I hope everything works out okay. So can't wait to see you for the next one. Bye.